We're live.
We're live!
Okay, did you get my voicemail the other day?
No, I haven't checked a voicemail in a month. Why?
Because I left you a voicemail being like, Amazon is messing with the good name of the Silmarillion. If you ever check them, you'll enjoy it. But what do you think about
I made?
No.
I show you the meme I made. I made a meme. Do. You can keep talking while I find it.
I started reading the Silmarillion out of spite because I'm annoyed, and I know that they don't have the rights to it, so they can't actually use anything that happens in the books, but just like...
But maybe if they were more willing to use what happens in the books, they would have had more... They would have been more likely to... How do I get this to you? If I just hold up this to the camera, it's going to look weird.
It might. You could try. It doesn't look weird, but I can't read it. I would say take a screenshot and...
Nope.
Yeah, take a screenshot and text it to me.
I can do that.
I am really annoyed that they turned Galadriel into a girl boss butt-kicking warrior.
I can't remember if she actually does any warrior princess crap in the book. I know that she shouldn't be wearing the Star of Feanor.
Yes, I know.
That's a little like like a Jew wearing a swastika.
That's probably not a great real world comparison to make, but the point is,
terrible. It was the first one that came into my head. Forgive me, internet. I didn't mean it. I am ignorant. I apologize.
It's more like me wearing a J.K. Rowling t-shirt.
There you go.
I hate her and all of her choices.
That's better. Yeah. Despite the many things, the accomplishments that the world wants to grant to her, actually, that's a very good analogy. Although in Galadriel, did that actually send? It did. In Galadriel's case, he did personally hurt her and was personally related to her, so it was even more obnoxious.
Yeah.
Wasn't she his half sister? No, cousin. Shit, I can't keep track.
I don't know. I'll let you know when I get to that point in the book.
Yeah. I know. I love Ainu Lindale. I love the Valaquenta. I love all of the origin stuff, and then you get into the kinslaying and the seven sons of Feanor, and I'm like, I can't remember them.
Dying.
Like, surely they'll be like the 13 dwarves and run around like a unit, and you don't have to keep track of them. No, every single one has a unique destiny, and if you don't remember them by name and every tiniest detail about them in Amon, you're going to miss something later. And did you think the meme was funny?
I did. Just make some shit. Which again, they have to, because they only have the rights to Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. So they can't use anything from the Silmarillion directly.
So anything that was mentioned in those movies is what they have the rights to.
Well, anything that was mentioned in the books is what they have the rights to.
Oh.
But anything that's not mentioned in the books or appendices, Amazon can't use.
Well, that seems like a bass-backwards way to do it. Because that way, even if they wanted Tolkien fidelity, they can't have it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they wanted it, honestly. I think it's going to be the Middle-earth version of The Watch.
Yeah. Also, in the sense that I probably will refuse to even put my eyeballs on it. Also, the dude who's playing Elrond looks nothing like anyone who could ever conceivably be Hugo Weaving. And
not the opposite. He looks like he's going to grow into Quentin Tarantino.
He looks like he wants to sell me cryptocurrency at the Renaissance Fair. I don't like it.
No.
So, they did a pretty good job casting young Galadriel, I will say that. She's very Galadriel-y. The costumes are such crap. Like, even setting aside the fact that she shouldn't be wearing a Feanorian star, they're so bad.
They look very, like, I don't know, Xena Warrior Princess, kind of
Right, and
that budget level. Hercules,
which
The Seeker.
those shows could get away with that because they had that budget level. This is like a ridiculously giant budget that they didn't spend any of it on costumes.
Oh, it's so sad.
Someone pointed out that costumers are unionized.
Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
It was never going to be beautiful.
No. Jeff Bezos does not make anything beautiful because Jeff Bezos is... I cannot decide if he's Sauron or Morgoth.
Neither. He's more like the mouth of Sauron.
Mm.
Like, I am immortal, but I can't remember my own name because Satan has promised me power, and I would rather have that than any kind of humanity.
Mm.
The Lieutenant of Darkness. I exist but to annoy you. He didn't get beheaded in the book, but it was very satisfying when he did in the movie.
Mm-hmm. I also really enjoyed the featurette where they talk about how hard it was to figure out what the mouth of Sauron should look like.
Agreed. All the different things they tried, I'm like, ooh, dodged a bullet.
As with so many things, I mean, that's the other thing. Like Lord of the Rings, some of the shit that makes that movie good was just like really dodging a bullet. Like we could have had Nicolas Cage's Aragorn.
We could have, yeah. Yeah, no, we lucked into what is essentially as perfect a movie as it could be, considering the fact that it is a bunch of white guys.
Indeed.
Yeah. No one but Sean Bean could have been Boromir.
No.
Right?
No one but Ian McKellen could have been. Well, Christopher Lee could have been Gandalf, but he was better as Saruman.
Especially when you take note of things like the darkness of his eyes and the dark hairs and the white of his beard and the cunning looks he gives. I'm like, oh, he's so freaking Saruman. Dude, he's born Saruman.
I think the frustrating part about hating on the Amazon show is there's two groups of people who hate on it. There's people who are like, as we are, why is Galadriel wearing a Feanorian star and why does Finrod look like he is serving at the Olive Garden?
Yeah. And like, then there's the racists.
And then there's the exactly what I was going to
say. And every time I'm like, we don't give a shit about the colors of the elvish skin. Someone always says to me, some people do. And I'm like, we're not talking about them. They are not we.
And the problem is that all of us say we just care about the fact that the movie's not authentic, but we mean very different things.
Very different things.
Very, very different things.
It's not code for racism. God, I would dig seeing a polyracial Middle Earth.
I would love that. Have we? I know we've talked about that. I don't know if this was my suggestion at the time, probably because it just stands out to me. Dev Patel would make an amazing Faramir.
He would. He'd be so lovable. You'd just trust him on sight with a newborn, or a war.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I would take the stink of Green Knight out of my nostrils. That thing drove me nuts. We couldn't see.
Why are things so dark?
You can hear clanking about. You're like.
It's just like waking up at 4 a.m. and being like, "Is that the cat?"
Artsy. It's not artsy. I can't see anything. Art is a thing you see. Although I kept thinking, they could have filmed Riddles in the Dark this way, and I would have been a lot happier with
Look.
it. Yeah. And other things. I think we've also talked about how the dwarves were basically sketched in the book The Hobbit, and that was an ample opportunity to make half of them black and a third of them female. Like it could have been.
Could have been. Oh, that's the other thing that is making people very upset for very different reasons is the female dwarf in the teaser trailer.
Has
Some
no
people-
beard. No beard. Oh.
That is the correct reason to be upset.
She's like the litmus test.
Yeah, do you hate this? Yes. Why? Is it racism or is it the fact that she has no beard? And then I saw someone who was like, well, if she had a beard, that would just, that would bring in the idea of transgenderism. And I was like, oh, tell me you're a TERF without telling me you're a TERF. Transgenderism,
Oh. Yeah, you can't add the suffix ism to a thing and suddenly make it bad.
You know that. I know that. I don't think they know that.
It's because they're up to here with isms.
Yes.
Like, I can do it to you too. Oh, I had a thing I wanted to share and I can't remember what it was. Damn.
I don't know.
It's gone now.
Like, it's not even explicitly dwarf women have beards. He put that in the text.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. And I don't know why people have such an issue with that. I think it's sexualizing. I think that's what it boils down to. They have trouble sexualizing females with facial hair because that's the only reason I can think of.
Well, and because there's all of this gender role stuff about female body hair and female facial hair, and people equate it with trans women, even though there are cis women with facial hair, quite a lot of them, because that's one of the symptoms of PCOS.
Yeah.
And some of them shave, but some of them don't, and they look great. Their beards are so well moisturized. I want to show some of my coworkers and be like, just ask her what she does. For the love of God, trim that shit. But anyway, that's another story.
And even though the makers of The Hobbit fucked up so badly, they also went to a lot of trouble they went down the whole rabbit hole of, okay, female dwarves have beards. What would that look like? Would we have feminine beards? Would we have braided mutton chops? Would we have all this fun? And they have all these drawings that you can find that never really made it into the production, but still you could see the wheels turning. Like, okay, yes, and
we could have had it all. Rolling in the deep.
But Bezos. I don't even know if he's in charge anymore, but I'm going to blame him for all of it.
I blame him. I blame capitalism. I blame Game of Thrones.
Yeah. I could see that.
For a lot.
What?
I said I blame Game of Thrones for a lot.
It gave me PTSD. I cannot see happy people in a show, even a sitcom, without thinking, oh God, someone's about to die.
Yeah. I never watched it because I don't like the books. And I'm very glad I didn't watch it. But my point is that you can't make like fun, lighthearted fantasy series anymore. Everybody wants to be fucking Game of Thrones.
Yep. It's a little like how many books have been done wrong by people trying to like kids' fantasy adventures have been completely gutted and twisted and like orked because people wanted to turn them into Harry Potter. So Percy Jackson wasn't Harry Potter, so they broke it. And the Susan Cooper's The Dark is Rising sequence, Harry Potter. Fucking Riddles, really smart, kind of an asshole.
Oh, Artemis Fowl.
Artemis Fowl. Harry Potter. And it's like, guys.
I'm sorry, I'm stuck on the fact that you gave me those 3 facts and I was able to come up with Artemis Fowl.
It's like that one conversation 17 years ago where I was like, so who could do it better, Robin Williams or Richard Dreyfuss or fuck, who was the third one? But you knew what I was talking about.
I don't doubt it, but I also don't remember.
If I brought up the third name, you would probably know exactly what character it is to whom I refer.
I have no doubt. I'm just like,
I don't remember the third name, but the character was the father in Masquerade? No, not Masquerade.
yeah. The third one, I think
Masqueraders.
Masqueraders, yeah. Crap, I almost remember who the third one was.
Right.
Robin Williams, Richard Dreyfuss, or
at any rate, you said Robin Williams if he could do the accent, and we know he could. But I always picture Richard Dreyfuss as the tragedian doing the dad in the Masqueraders, and it's spot on.
I feel like there's been some actors since that could do it. Like, well, dang, now I can't think of anybody, but I
this would be, unless you wanted to bend it a bit, this wouldn't be a fun zeitgeist to make that into a movie in, because it really is, at its heart, kind of heteronormative, and that's boring.
I think there's a lot of, like, I don't necessarily agree with that. I think there's a lot of subtext.
And you could insert more without deviating from the story at all.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and like one of the things about the whole like person cross dresses and then someone else falls in love with them and has a gay like freak out about it.
Yeah.
Is that it's an inherently extremely bisexual storyline, which is why Mulan as a movie has such a following, also because it's a great movie, but
and why Victor Victoria works better when you leave out the bathroom scene.
Also because that bathroom scene, like that just remove it. The whole thing.
It broke the story, right?
It broke the story. They just had to no homo it to the point where he became a peeping Tom, and skip the bathroom scene. Doesn't exist.
It did.
Because then it's really, if you leave out the bathroom scene, it's very sweet when he says, "I don't care if you are a man."
Right? Yeah. Yeah, that moment means nothing. Unless that scene doesn't exist, which it doesn't. So it means something, and it's beautiful. And I don't know, you could probably throw in additional characters to give you a little more fun. I feel like, what was his name? Charles, who becomes Peter's best friend, could be a gay best friend with like no changes being made to him whatsoever.
Yeah. Well, and like that's the thing. If you coded his friends as like Regency gay guys, and he's fitting in with them because he's queer in whatever way and giving off that vibe, and so they're like, oh yeah, you're totally one of us, come hang out with us. And Prudence is just like, okay, well, they certainly seem very nice.
Right.
But that like makes sense of the whole thing. And then
the ending would be unsatisfying though, because you've got a pair of hetero couples living happily ever after, maybe 3 if you count the lady what's her name and dad, although I think they're just like FWB.
Yeah, pretty much. But
but I love every character so much. I would really love to see them on a screen.
Yeah, I think you could do it in a way that wasn't disappointing, even though, like, you can queer the text very easily with that particular Georgette Hare novel, but also with a lot of them. I mean, Freddie is completely gay.
Freddie?
Freddie, yeah, he's gay. That's why everybody's so shocked when he gets engaged. They're like, to a woman?
And even he is like, you're the only woman I could ever love. And we're all like, yeah, we know, Freddie. She's the exception. She's your Tori Amos.
Yes.
Oh, shit, we've spent the whole time schmoozing. That's what happens when we miss a week.
There you go.
Sorry.
That's all right. We didn't know whose turn it was to read anyway.
That's true. At least you found the spot, and I'm pretty sure it's your turn because I don't remember working on this last time.
Well, what is
it? Still doing the illustrations for Balance Dance. It's going to be very unlikely that it gets done by the equinox, but this is the scene where they're leaving the town at night. And
neat.
Yeah. And I finally got my new colored pencils in because I'd lost this shade of blue. Can't really finish it without this shade of blue. So now I've got them and I shall do it. And we can read at least a little bit of Faramir, I don't know, getting mortally wounded or something.
Spoilers! All right, let's see where we are. So they're saying like we gotta send some folks out to go get Faramir and the wounded and all that shit.
Need it there more than here, or something.
I had already given thought to it. Let us go down.
Yes.
Time passed. At length,
you thought about the sortie?
well,
sorta.
Right. I see what you did there. This is going to be a digression. We may or may not get any reading done, but I have to tell you this. So there's a thing on Tumblr that is it's a meme and it's very difficult to explain, but basically it's there's two pieces to it. One is Blorbo from my shows, which is whenever you're talking about some character from a show you like, someone else will be like, "Oh yeah, it's Blorbo from your shows."
Yeah.
And the other is EBDB, which means hell. I don't know why.
Huh.
But my friend was like, now Tumblr has ruined me because now I think of a like adventure story arc as Blorbo goes to EBDB. and she tagged it, I have a PhD. And I was like, it sounds like you have a PhD BDB.
Awesome.
I think we're still friends. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, fuck. Oh. Shit. Okay, so I was helping a friend lay a kitchen floor this week, and I didn't take my working gloves with me because I was like, it's a small room. And I got a little shredded. And right there.
That's where you hold a pencil, is it not?
Is where I hold a pencil.
That's not gonna work.
I might have we'll do this.
Just watch that turn out to be like the best shading grip you've ever used.
Yeah, I'll use it on purpose from now on.
All right, let's see. Time passed. At length, watchers on the walls could see the retreat of the out companies. Small bands of weary and often wounded men came first with little order. Some were running wildly as if pursued. Away to the eastward, distant fires flickered, and now it seemed that here and there they crept across the plain. Houses and barns were burning. Then, from many points, little rivers of red flame came hurrying on, winding through the gloom, converging towards the line of the broad road that led from the city gate to Osgiliath.
That's not creepy at all.
Yeah, so this is one thing they didn't do in the movie that I feel like was probably just too hard, but just picturing the fact that it's completely dark, like it's the middle of the day.
Yep.
All of this is happening in the dark.
Yep. And the fire is growing and slowly approaching, and not a damn thing they can do about it.
Mm-hmm. The enemy, men murmured. The dike is down. Here they come, pouring through the breaches. And they carry torches, it seems. Where are our own folk? It drew now to evening by the hour, and the light was so dim that even far-sighted men upon the citadel could discern little clearly out upon the fields, save only the burnings that ever multiplied, and the lines of fire that grew in length and speed. At last, less than a mile from the city, a more ordered mass of men came into view, marching, not running, still holding together. The watchers held their breath. Faramir must be there, they said. He can govern man and beast. He will make it right. Now the main retreat was scarcely 2 furlongs distant. Out of the gloom... How long is 2 furlongs again?
How long is what?
2 furlongs.
Oh, a furlong is a block, so 2 city blocks.
Ah. Oh, that's really close.
A furlong is 1/8 of a mile, and a city block is about 1/8 of a mile. Did that make sense?
I don't know. You cut out.
A furlong is 1/8 of a mile.
One more time.
A furlong is 1/8 of a mile.
Now we know. Now I can hear you.
And a city block is also roughly 1/8 of a mile.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So 2 blocks.
2 blocks.
Out of the gloom behind, a small company of horsemen galloped, all that was left of the rear guard. Once again they turned at bay, facing the oncoming lines of fire. Then suddenly there was a tumult of fierce cries. Horsemen of the enemy swept up. The lines of fire became flowing torrents, file upon file of orcs bearing flames, and wild Southron men with red banners shouting with harsh tongues, surging up, overtaking the retreat. With a piercing cry out of the dim sky fell the winged shadows, the Nazgul stooping to the kill. The retreat became a rout. Already men were breaking away, flying wild and witless here and there, flinging away their weapons, crying out in fear, falling to the ground. And then a trumpet rang from the citadel, and Denethor at last released the sortie. Drawn up within the shadow of the gate and under the looming walls outside, they had waited for his signal, all the mounted men that were left in the city. Now they sprang forward, formed, quickened to a gallop, and charged with a great shout. And from the walls an answering shout went up, for foremost on the field rode the Swan Knights of Dol Amroth, with their prince and his blue banner at their head. Hey, look, he did something!
Yay, the waiter is useful after all.
Who's that guy? They cried. No, just kidding. Amroth for Gondor, they cried. Amroth to Faramir. Like thunder, they broke upon the enemy on either flank of the retreat. But one rider outran them all, swift as the wind in the grass. Shadowfax bore him, shining, unveiled once more, a light starting from his upraised hand. The Nazgul screeched and swept away, for their captain was not yet come to challenge the white fire of his foe. The hosts of Morgul, intent on their prey, taken at unawares in wild career, broke, scattering like sparks in a gale. The out-companies with a great cheer turned and smote their pursuers. Hunters became the hunted. The retreat became an onslaught.
Woohoo!
The field was strewn with stricken orcs and men, and a reek arose of torches, cast away, sputtering out in swirling smoke. The cavalry rode on. But Denethor did not permit them to go far. Though the enemy was checked and for the moment driven back, great forces were flowing in from the east. Again the trumpet rang, sounding the retreat. The cavalry of Gondor halted. Behind their screen the out-companies reformed. Now steadily they came marching back. They reached the gate of the city and entered, stepping proudly. And proudly the people of the city looked on them and cried their praise. And yet they were troubled in heart, for the companies were grievously reduced. Faramir had lost a third of his men. And where was he? Last of all he came. His men passed in, the mounted knights returned, and at their rear the banner of Dol Amroth and the prince. And in his arms, before him on his horse, he bore the body of his kinsman, Faramir, son of Denethor, found upon the stricken field. Faramir, Faramir, men cried, weeping in the streets. But he did not answer, and they bore him away up the winding road to the citadel and his father. Even as the Nazgul had swerved aside from the onset of the White Rider, there came flying a deadly dart, and Faramir, as he held at bay a mounted champion of Harad, had fallen to the earth. Only the charge of Dol Amroth had saved him from the red Southland swords that would have hewed him as he lay. The Prince Imrahil brought Faramir to the White Tower, and he said, "Your son has returned, Lord, after great deeds." Dick. And he told all that he had seen. But Denethor rose and looked on the face of his son, and was silent. Then he bade them make a bed in the chamber, and lay Faramir upon it, and depart. But he himself went up alone into the secret room under the summit of the tower, and many who looked up thither at that time saw a pale light that flickered and gleamed from the narrow windows for a while, and then flashed and went out. But he doesn't have a palantir. And when Denethor descended again, he went to Faramir and sat beside him without speaking. But the face of the Lord was grey, more death-like than his son's. So now, at last, the city was besieged, enclosed in a ring of foes. The Ramus was broken, and all the Pelennor abandoned to the enemy. The last word to come from outside the walls was brought by men flying down the northward road ere the gate was shut. They were the remnant of the guard that was kept at that point where the way from Anorion and Rohan ran into the townlands. Ingold led them, the same who had admitted Gandalf and Pippin less than 5 days before, while the sun still rose, and there was hope in the morning. "There is no news of the Rohirrim," he said. "Rohan will not come now, or if they come, it will not avail us. The new host that we had tidings of has come first from over the river by way of Andros, it is said. They are strong, battalions of orcs of the eye, and countless companies of men of a new sort that we have not met before, not tall, but broad and grim, bearded like dwarves, wielding great axes. Out of some savage land in the wide east they come, we deem. They hold the northward road, and many have passed on into Anorion. The Rohirrim cannot come."
Well then.
Well then.
Have we talked about why specifically Denethor lost his shit right then?
We have not, I don't think.
When you look at the timeline, if he went to look in the Palantir and see what's going on, like where people are, what he would see are black ships sailing, and he wouldn't know who was in them. And Frodo in the top of the Tower of Cirith Ungol, naked with no ring on him. Sauron would have directed his eyes that way, but he wouldn't have known what they meant. But Denethor thought he knew what those meant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because that's what's going on at the exact moment that he looks in the Palantir.
Man. Like, as much as he's a dick, thinking about what he saw without context, you can't really blame him for being like, well, it's all over.
You would have to be an absolute, like, brainless optimist to think there was any possibility of it meaning anything other than the obvious, and I kind of love that it does. Like, brainless optimism would be right.
Brainless optimism would be right, but the other thing is that I think it makes a really interesting point about who Denethor is, because he sees that and he goes, there's no hope, everything is doomed, I'm the smartest person, I'm the only person who knows this, and so I'm going to give up because that's the smart thing to do now.
Yeah.
Another person with the same information might have said, there is no hope, everything is doomed, I'm going to go out bravely, or I'm going to save everyone I can in some way with my incredible smarts, or I'm going to be a brainless optimist no matter what. There's a number of ways you can react to believing that there is no hope.
And in fact, there are other characters who do just those things. Like when Pippin is falling on the field later in front of the Black Gates, and he's like, all right, I'm dead. There's no hope. I'm going to stab this big guy, though. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's so many ways
I
you can
got
react.
nothing. I got nothing, but that doesn't change my who I am.
Right. There's no hope, but I am still going to do whatever is in front of me. Where Denethor says there is no hope, so I'm gonna
Therefore,
give up.
yeah.
I
Give up dramatically. Give up in a
dramatically.
way that would make the enemy's victory even more complete.
Hmm.
Because that's what you do when you give in to despair.
Yeah. Well, and dramatically, and also, I mean, it's been a bit since I read this part, but I feel like also a bit smugly. Like I'm the only one who's smart enough to see that this is like the only thing to do now.
Yep. Yeah, it's and he even says that later on. Like you
He's
may triumph on the field for a day, but blah 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 blah. And it's like,
yeah, he's almost enjoying his despair.
yes, wallowing.
Hmm.
Absolutely.
Glorying in his hopelessness. And I think there's a message there in the world situation that we're in now, because a lot of people really enjoy their despair.
It's true. And there's a certain sense of, well, the world is clearly fucked and there's nothing we can do about it, so let's just maximize our carbon footprint and go strangle a seal. Or
Yeah.
that kind of
Or
thing. And
give
it's
up
like,
and just like cry, or there's all kinds of ways you can react. Again,
again,
and I just think that showing the ultimate outcome of leaning into despair is one of the really key messages and important messages of the books.
yeah. And that leaning into despair is just plain wrong. Not just morally wrong, but in this case, incorrect.
Hmm.
Like if he'd lived, he would have been so embarrassed about how wrong he was on this topic, because
Yeah, and he only didn't live because he decided not to.
yep,
He could have survived this whole damn thing.
he could. Oh, what's that for a AU? Like so Tolkien loves his symmetry.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he really enjoyed taking the hobbits and giving one of them to a king who had sunk into a despair, rising out of it, and give the other one to a king who sinks into despair. So they do this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you get to watch them like a teeter-totter. But what if Denethor hadn't?
I think then the trajectory would be um, Theoden goes up, Denethor goes down, they both die, and then Denethor comes back up and takes on the role that Theoden had. So he would take on a parental role to Eowyn and Aemir.
Yeah.
He would be a better father to his son. He would like make amends and say like, what I believed to be my wisdom was actually my folly, and I question everything I thought I knew. I'm going to go maybe even like walk the world as just a traveler to see what I've been missing while I've been like curled
Hold
up
up
here
in
in my
my
tower.
yeah. The like suppose Denethor had never looked in a palantir. Just run the country like a man should, with the news coming in from his scouts and things. I don't know that he learned enough to via the ball to
He
make
learned,
much of a difference one way or the other up till now.
I think he learned enough to give him the wrong idea, because that was the whole thing with how Sauron was using it to control people, right? Was he would just show them like snippets of information, which
Yeah.
you could again draw a parallel to media control and the ways that things are edited to cause outrage
Thank
and
you.
despair.
Yes. Yes, it is absolute. That's what it's. Oh, media control. That is a fun parallel.
Mm-hmm.
Or if Denethor had looked in it and been like, I have reason to despair here and I'm not going to. But if he was that kind of man, he wouldn't have been that awful to Faramir in the first place.
Yeah, I wonder what sort of change you would have to make in order for Denethor to have a Palantir and still survive.
Yeah, yeah. We need AU writers up in here. For him to say, okay, I've seen the things that will cause our end, and I don't care. Faramir would have... He still would have had to contend with a king coming. I think that had as much to do with his giving into despair as anything. He knew Aragorn was on his way. He knew
the line of stewards was over, basically.
Yeah, or the line of ruling stewards was over. Yeah. So even... And he's always hated Aragorn. He always has. Back when Aragorn was the fucking captain of the Tower Guard and he was Ecthelion's favorite human. And
that's where you would have to go back to.
Oh my god. If he hadn't had a personal jealousy of the man, then he just would have thought of the coming of the king as this marvelous prophetic thing that he could be a part of. If Daddy hadn't loved him...
If Daddy hadn't loved him more.
Yeah, yes. If Daddy had loved him more...
Yep. Either way you look
at it. It's all your fault, Ecthelion.
It goes back to Ecthelion. That's... Yeah, even if Ecthelion had liked Aragorn more, if Aragorn had been able to like seek out Denethor and treat him as a brother, and they could have had that relationship, then when Denethor saw everything, he would be like, it's okay, my bro's coming.
My bro is coming. Yes.
I still believe that the king will come, and I'm happy about it because I like him. And then he would survive, and then he could take on that role and become... He would basically... he could even, like, become almost a grandfather figure.
Well, like, the wizards are leaving. Gandalf is leaving. Like, he could be the man that is the pilgrim. He could take on the mantle of the Grey Pilgrim.
He could take on the mantle of the Grey Pilgrim, and he could be, like, the primary, like envoy between Rohan and Gondor.
Yeah.
And carry news and keep
and
the
every so often head up north to the Shire and be welcomed there as an envoy, and he could just be an...
He's really sad.
He's got Númenórean blood. He was probably good for another 50, 70 years.
Right. He could take on the mantle of the Grey Pilgrim and take on leadership of the Dunedain, because he has Númenórean blood.
Oh my god, and the Rangers are back, but they don't have Aragorn anymore.
They don't have Aragorn anymore. They need a leader.
They need a leader.
Faramir would become the steward
of Ithilien.
Of Ithilien, and Denethor would become the Grey Wanderer who leads the company of the Dunedain through the north and keeps the peace after the Great War of the Ring.
And tells the stories. The stories of the wars and the skirmishes and how everyone was protected. He could tell the people he's been protecting what he did for them for all those years as a tale around the campfire or at the inn.
And he'd go to Bree and they'd be like,
And they'd be like, Grey Pilgrim, tell us again about what you saw in the Palantir. How the Dark Lord tried to make you despair. He would say that was the darkest day, but we made it through.
He was a tall man, proud and stern, with gray in his dark hair, but yet there was a joy in him. As one who has seen darkness and the dawn that comes after.
Oh, damn it. When they asked him if he was not weary from his travels, he would laugh and say, I slept for 50 years in full plate armor. Nothing makes me weary anymore. I live in a world where I don't have to do that anymore. because we created it. Now bring me another beer and I'll tell you again of the coming of the king. I can cry.
God. Oh my god, we fixed it. I didn't even know it needed fixing, and now I'm so sad.
Yeah, just all this time I've been like, oh, that's poetic and violent and sad, and now I'm like, no, this is really fucking sad. He could have been that guy.
He could have.
Damn it, Ecthelion.
Damn it, Ecthelion. If we had merch, our merch would say, damn it, Ecthelion. And we'd also have, but I don't have a Palantir.
Oh.
And one of Aragorn that just says bitch.
Yes, and the print or the blue flag with the white swan that says "and you are."
Okay, look, can we make merch even if nobody wants it?
Actually, we can. I have a Threadless account. I don't know that anyone will be interested, but oh my gosh, I have a thing. I have a thing to show you. Can't believe I almost did it. I know it's late, but you have to see this. Oh shit, I ruined her. Ooh. I should have been more careful. All right, so this box probably isn't going to work.
Pretty. I think you showed me last week, but there's never too many times to see these cards. They're so freaking cool.
I've showed them to like 40 people so far, so I've gotten a little hazy on who.
They're so cool. I haven't watched the most recent video yet, but I will.
It's 17 minutes, so I don't blame you, but yeah, Nobelium. I learned some things about Nobel that made me laugh. Apparently he had a munitions factory and he earned some other money in like not necessarily pacifist ways, even though he was a really benign person. He was just really good at making money, right? Have I told you this already? His brother died. And the French newspapers got word of the wrong Nobel being dead and printed a scathing obituary. The merchant of death has finally died. And Alfred read it and went, "How? But I'm not you. But I just make what?" And he was like, "That's it. I'm fixing my legacy." So, without telling the people he named as judges, and without telling his family, he left his entire considerable fortune in trust for the 5 brightest minds to receive a chunk of it every year in perpetuity. And that's the Nobel Prize.
And no one remembers him as the Merchant of Death. Good job.
Well done. Yeah. I think it was a bit over dramatic. Like it was a munitions factory, but he wasn't like a war profiteer. He was a bit gray. And he was like, "Nope, I am going to be remembered for something good, for bringing good to humanity and celebrating the good in humanity." And damn it, he achieved it.
Good for him.
That's why the Peace Prize is a big deal. Like that's why that's one of the things. It's like physical science, chemistry, couple other things, literature, and fraternity. Look at the chromium. I'm a little disappointed in myself because I put it in the box wrong, and we've got and it's hydrogen too, so hydrogen got bent. But I think I can straighten her out.
I think so.
Yep.
Put some weight on top. It's not like crease. It's just a little
wavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do that. Anyway, it's probably time for you to go eat your dinner.
It is time for me to go make my dinner. So yes, I will talk to you later, and I love you, and we'll just go be sad about Denethor for a while. And
yeah, we fixed it. You're welcome, universe.
I've been told that we do have some people watching these, like, not when they're live, but afterwards. So hopefully we didn't make anyone too sad while they were
At work.
at work or whatever. So
Sorry if I made you cry. Didn't mean to. All right, I love you.
I love you too.
Cuidado.
Llamas.